Hey everybody, JB back with you once again as we are about to enter the final part of the final day of the trial of Lana Skye. I'm not going to recap anything in the interest of not wasting time, so let's just go ahead and get right into it. Now then, will the defendant, Miss Lana Skye, please take the stand? Miss Lana Skye, you are the chief prosecutor. I'm sure you're aware of what is required of you. But Mr. Edgeworth, you already know everything. You know all that I've done these past 2 years. Please provide the court with your testimony, Miss Skye. And remember, you are under oath. We want to hear the truth. Of course, the truth. Lana, no matter what happens, I'll always be your sister. Aww. Now then, your testimony, if you will. First, tell us about your relationship with Chief Gant. Everything hinges on your testimony. You're the only chance we have to get Gant. Hopefully Gant can get got here. Gant and the fabrication. I worked alongside Gant for years. There's no truth to this blackmail theory. I fabricated the evidence 2 years ago all by myself. When I found Professor Marshall's body, I rearranged the crime scene. My only motivation was to get Dark convicted. It had nothing to do with Emma. Are you sure about this testimony? Your Honor, I'm confessing to a capital offense. Of course I'm sure. But Lana! If this is true, then that means Chief Gant has nothing to do with this. That's what I've been telling you from the beginning. Please, Mr. Wright, you've got to help her. She's sacrificing herself because of me. But what if she's telling the truth? No, I think we've pretty well established that she's not telling the truth. She's covering all this up to avoid the wrath of Gant. She's not. I know my own sister. And once again, Emma continues to read our thoughts. Whenever she speaks stiffly like that, she's hiding something inside. Deep down, she's really screaming in agony. Yeah, that's what I thought as well. Yeah, this is no time to start second-guessing myself. The defense may now begin its cross-examination. Alright, so I'm gonna guess that the thing we need to contradict is this, this statement here at the end. Mr. Wright, my sister's lying! Looks like she's determined to protect you to the end. She insists she fabricated the evidence by herself. There's no way she could have done it alone. I've got to get Lana to talk more. If she's lying, then she's bound to slip up and make a contradiction. Okay, so maybe we need to press them. It seems like the game is hinting at that. How many years exactly? Ever since I made senior detective. Let's see, I was 24 then, so that would be 5 years. Detective Gant and Detective Skye were legendary partners. I personally saw them testify in numerous cases. She must have been good, coming from the same school as Mia. Damon Gant was a respectable detective. That's why... Okay. But think about it, Miss Skye. You didn't murder Detective Goodman. You told me as much yesterday in jail. You still don't get it, do you, Mr. Wright? Any testimony you cannot present in court is as useless as idle gossip. I stabbed Detective Goodman with a knife. And... notice how she's wording everything very vaguely here. She said she'd stabbed Detective Goodman with a knife, not that she murdered Detective Goodman. Did you do so to help your sister? Joe Dark was a serial killer. My sister almost became his last victim that day. I didn't want that incident to ruin her life. But what she did was justifiable self-defense. She wouldn't have been charged with anything. That's not the point. She was traumatized that day, all because of that creep. That's why I couldn't forgive him. Lana? So that's why you fabricated the evidence 2 years ago. Alright. You say you did this all by yourself? Yes. Would you mind telling us what you found when you arrived at the crime scene? It seems I was the first person to discover the scene. The broken prosecutor award knife was stuck in the victim's body. What? Wait a minute. Yeah. I thought we had determined that Emma pushed Neil into this knight armor thing with this in here, and that Neil was the one who was wielding the King of Prosecutors knife. But Prosecutor Marshall died from an unfortunate accident. That's only a situation you dreamed was possible. Yeah, but I thought that that was what we were accepting as gospel truth at this point. The reality is, it wasn't my sister who took the prosecutor's life. Fantasize all you want, Mr. Wright, but I'll never change this statement. You mean Prosecutor Marshall wound up being killed by Dark? Something like that. If that is so, what happened to the other murder weapon? Dark was carrying a switchblade knife. Oh, that was lying on the floor a little distance away. It was probably knocked away in the struggle. That's not how it went down. She's trying to cover up her lies with more lies. All just to protect me. So when you found the scene like this, what did you do? After all, this is what everything boils down to. Yes. Okay, this is new. I broke off the tip of Dark's knife, planted it inside the wound, then moved the body. You planted the tip of Dark's knife in the victim's wound, and then you moved the body? But why? Why would you do that? You, of all people, should know, Edgeworth. You've always had a good head on your shoulders. My head isn't that bad, but maybe I ought to ask for the sake of the others. I'm gonna ask this here first. But why did you do that? Come now, Mr. Wright. Even you should be able to figure it out. Very well, let's add this to the witness's testimony. Okay. The reason Miss Skye fabricated the knife. I knew the tip of the weapon found buried in his body would be all the proof we needed. According to your testimony, Prosecutor Marshall's broken knife was the murder weapon, right? Yes, and leaving it at that might point the blame away from Dark. I felt the most effective way to get him convicted would be by having the tip of his knife found inside the victim's body. So you buried it inside the victim's stab wound? Yes, because I hated Dark for what he did. My only motivation was to get Dark convicted. It had nothing to do with Emma. Let's just press this just for completion's sake at this point. So you rearranged the crime scene. Are you sure you didn't do this to keep Emma from looking like the murderer? How many times do I have to tell you, Mr. Wright? Emma didn't do it. Period. Are you so desperate to hide that fact? You're willing to risk the death sentence? She's lying. She did it so I wouldn't be blamed for what happened. In any case, as a prosecutor, what I've done is unpardonable. There's nothing I can do to make up for my actions. Mr. Wright, my sister's lying. Okay, yeah. So, I think the key, as usual with these things, is in these two new statements here. I'm curious what happens if we do the other choice here. Why did you move the body? When you showed up on the scene, where exactly was the victim's body? It was where you deduced it was, by Chief Gant's desk. But the body was found by your desk. Why did you move it there? The reason for that is simple. Let's have the witness explain this in more detail. Okay, I think this is what we were supposed to pick then. The reason Miss Sky moved to the body. The pieces of the jar that shattered during the events threatened my plan. My only motivation... Oh. Okay, I think we need to press this. This is kind of a bit vague. Pieces of the jar? You mean... Yes, that wretched jar you showed us earlier. In order to show that Dark committed the crime, I felt it would be more expedient to move the body. So, when you first found the body, the jar was already... Of course, it had been shattered to pieces. If you looked at the crime scene, it would be clear right away what happened. So basically, she's saying that she moved the body because the jar was located where the body originally was? I'm confused. Neil Marshall was dead, and Dark was lying unconscious. In other words, the jar must have been broken during their struggle. I see. What's the matter, Emma? Apparently the jar shattered at the time the crime was committed. But I have a feeling there's more to it than that. There must be a contradiction here somewhere. Anyway, I committed this fabrication completely alone. Okay. I'm going to look at the court record again here, because we need to figure out what exactly we need to present here. Are we supposed to, like, present this because the piece was found in Gant's safe? So it's like, hey, you know, you did... Hang on a sec. I'm going to try presenting this. I have a feeling this is not correct because this statement was available originally. Yeah. That's not right. See, I feel like we don't really have anything that directly contradicts that. But this right here, the piece of the jar that shattered during the events threatened my plan. Maybe we present it here? Ah! Okay. Miss Sky, I understand how you feel. You committed that crime 2 years ago to protect your sister. You mean the forgery at the scene where Neil Marshall was murdered? If that truth were to be exposed now, the past 2 years of your life will have been in vain. Even so, I'm compelled to bring to everyone's attention a significant contradiction within your testimony. A contradiction in my testimony? You testified, and I quote, "The pieces of the jar that shattered during the events threatened my plan." That's right. Do you have a problem with that? It's a simple oversight, really. You see, a message was written on this jar with the victim's blood. Yes, the prosecutor must have written it in his final moments. Exactly so. And this is where the contradiction lies. In order for the victim to be able to write his message on the jar, it must not yet have been broken before he died. Oh, duh, of course, okay. That makes so much sense. Ah. He couldn't have written Emma's name on a shattered jar. Order! Order! Your Honor, it would appear more information is needed in regard to this jar and its bloody message. We may be missing something critical here. Something critical? Chief Prosecutor, it seems you are as in the dark as we are about the truth towards which we're headed. What? Just tell us exactly what you saw. We'll piece together the information to arrive at the truth. Like piecing together the jar, huh? Okay, that was terrible. Very well, the witness may now continue her testimony. Alright, part 2. Jar and message in blood. I immediately noticed the blood traces on the jar, but it was dark in the room and I didn't have time to check it out. To be safe, I wiped away the blood. The fragments were large, so I'm sure I got them all. All I could think about was wiping them clean before they were discovered. You mean you were the one who wiped away the message in blood? I wasn't chief prosecutor at the time. She didn't think Dark was the real murderer. That's why she tried to erase the real evidence. Very well. The defense may now begin its cross-examination. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and press everything. So the jar was already broken? It's a miracle that thing hadn't broken earlier. It certainly looks as feeble as the defense's case. Hey now, but not as feeble as the judge's judgment. You were an ace detective who never missed a detail. Do you really expect us to believe you didn't investigate what was written on the jar pieces? Normally I would have. Okay. So you didn't know your sister's name was written on the jar? No, if I had known, I would have gathered all the pieces and ground them to dust. Well, that helps my case. Lana, you do that for me? It seems you two might make up yet. Anyway, I had just barely had enough time to move the body as it was. If someone happened upon the scene, you'd lose your chance to erase the evidence. You must have been in a hurry. I was. I knew I had to destroy the evidence before anyone came. This is rather shocking. Okay. I'm afraid this action of yours reveals what really happened. What do you mean? If you really thought Dark killed Prosecutor Marshall, you wouldn't have wiped away the blood. What else could I have done in that situation? Lana, I only had a few moments. There wasn't enough time for me to do anything else but gather up the pieces. But how could you see with the power out? It should have been pitch black in that office. A detective is always prepared, Mr. Wright. Even now, I always carry a pocket light and a camera with me. Even I carry a bottle of emergency luminol wherever I go. Yeah, we've kind of noticed that. I never miss anything. I got every last piece. So you illegally rearranged the crime scene? Yes, I don't have any excuse for my actions. I'm so sorry, Lana. I didn't know. I've treated you so badly all this time. It's not too late. There's still plenty of time to make up. After we've gotten to the bottom of this incident. No doubt this day will leave a permanent stain on the history of the prosecutor's office. More contradictions have surfaced in her testimony. Your sister's really putting up a fight. She must really care about you. Still, she's not doing this the right way. I think I've finally figured out the contradictions in her testimony. There's one final possibility that might turn everything around. Okay. So... what exactly is this, then? I'm really curious what we need to present here. I'm just gonna check to make sure we didn't miss anything here with this. No, that seems pretty straightforward. I'm so curious what this piece of cloth is all about. I don't know what to present here. Like... are we supposed to present the jar here because it was found in Chief Gant's safe, so therefore it's like she didn't get them all? I'm gonna try that. Yes! Okay, perfect. Miss Sky, I believe this jar conceals a truth even you are unaware of. What? We found the final piece of this jar in Chief Gant's safe. In the Chief's safe? But how? I knew it. She really didn't know. There's something even more disturbing about that final piece. There was still blood on it. Yeah, that was what I noticed earlier, was that this was more significantly pronounced compared to, like, this other stuff. Like, these pieces looked wiped away, but this has a very clear line, set like a clear shape on it that looks like the M. And this looks like the parts of the E here. But the witness just testified that she gathered every last piece and wiped the blood off of them. Yes, which leaves us with only one explanation. On the night Prosecutor Marshall was murdered, you were not the first one to show up on the scene. Chief Gant got there before you. But couldn't the defendant simply have missed a piece? I'm afraid that's unlikely. The pieces are too big for anyone to miss, let alone an ace detective. That may well be, but everyone makes mistakes. Even I once wasted an entire day looking for my dentures. They were in my mouth all along. Ah, can you believe that? Unfortunately, I can believe that. Have you forgotten, Your Honor? When this witness arrived at the scene, the jar was already broken. Oh, that! There's no way a name could have been written on a shattered jar. Another person discovered the scene prior to the witness. Also a good point. I hope you're not implying this person was Chief Gant. At the time, he was looking for Dark downstairs. Besides, even if he was there first, why would he break the jar? We are implying that it is Chief Gant. The question is, if he did arrive there first, why did he hide that fact for 2 years? I like that how the judge is mouthing something even though there's a ... there. Well, Your Honor, can you answer us that? No, 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 no. No! That's the first time I've heard Judge have a no moment. Wait, I'm not the one on trial here? Exactly. I love how he had like a witness kind of moment where he had a big no. Damon Gant arrived at the crime scene prior to the witness. He proceeded to break the jar and purposefully hid one of the broken pieces. Question: what is this action called? Fabrication of evidence. But why would Chief Gant do that? In light of what happened afterwards, isn't it clear? What happened afterwards? Discovering the scene, Lana Skye believed her sister Emma killed the victim. Determined to help her sister, she sought Gant's aid. Lending her his aid, Gant helped her create evidence that incriminated Dark, sparing Emma. And therein lies the reason. The reason why Miss Skye became the Chief's puppet. No, I did it on my own. Please, sis, stop trying to protect the Chief. I can't watch you suffer anymore for my sake. No, you didn't. It wasn't you, Emma. You didn't kill anyone. Don't believe anything Mr. Wright says. Defense attorneys make up the most foul lies to defend their clients. Foul lies? Imagine that coming from my own client. I guess you do seem the type who likes to twist the truth. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Just what I said. What if we're still smack dab in the middle of Gant's trap? Wait, what do you mean? Is something wrong, Mr. Wright? Lana may be right after all. What do you mean, Wright? So you do tell foul lies then, Mr. Wright? Not exactly. Miss Skye, please testify once more. But if evidence was fabricated behind your back, then Emma's accidental killing of Prosecutor Marshall might also be a lie. But I do remember... wait, this isn't the judge. But I do remember knocking over Mr. Marshall. Miss Skye, if you will. I can't. There's nothing to be afraid of anymore. This cross-examination may not change a thing. However, there is a possibility that it will if you tell the truth. Very well. I'll testify about what I really saw. All right, the witness may testify once more for the final time. Actual crime scene. When I arrived, I found Mr. Marshall's body impaled on that suit of armor's sword. Emma and Dark were lying unconscious on the floor nearby. When I saw what had happened, I thought she did it. That's why I erased all the evidence that linked her to the murder. I had Chief Gant help me remove the body from the sword and carry it. But if it all really was a fabrication, Emma might be innocent. Unbelievable! The body was impaled on the armor sword? You are the only one who saw that. If only you had proof. Actually, I do have proof. I gave it to Mr. Wright just this morning. What? To me? It's a picture I took of the crime scene as I encountered it. I thought it might be needed. Wait a minute. Is it in here? All we can read is this. Did she tuck away a picture in this book? Maybe we have to get to that. But I don't remember receiving a picture like that. Lana must have known. See, Mr. Wright, she really does have faith in you. Very well, Mr. Wright. Please present this picture. I don't remember receiving any pictures from Lana. Lana said she gave it to you this morning, right? I seem to remember getting something from her then. Let's check that evidence again. There must be a picture in there somewhere. Okay, now we can look here. Okay, great, okay. I was like, this was the only thing we got this morning, so I couldn't think of anything else. P.O. Oh, here we go. Oh! Hey, there's a picture here. Oh. Oh my. This is the actual crime scene. No other detective saw the crime scene like this, because I contacted Criminal Affairs only after I had rearranged everything. Mr. Wright! That piece cut out from his vest! Could that be the cloth we found inside Chief Gant's safe? Ooh. What's this? This is a handprint, isn't it? That cloth, it had fingerprints on it. So is the implication here that Chief Gant kept that because the implication is that Emma pushed Marshall with that part of the cloth into the sword? Whoever fingerprints those are must be the real murderer. Yeah, I think that's what they're trying to imply here. What? But those fingerprints... They're yours, Emma. Why are your lips turning all purple, Mr. Wright? Anyway, let's get on with the cross-examination. So long as you tell the truth, we should be able to flesh out the real murderer. Very well. The defense may now begin its cross-examination. Actual crime scene. Whoa. Oh. Hi, Gant. Come now, Udgy. This is the poorest excuse for a trial I've ever seen. Chief Gant! What, now you want to make me out as the bad guy too? If so, I'd like to put in a word or two in my defense. I'm afraid it's too late for that. What? You already declined to testify. That means you forfeited your right to make statements of any sort. This must be that risk we were talking about earlier. Just sit back, relax, and enjoy the sound of the noose tightening around your own neck. Ah, so what? You think I'm worried? Well, kind of after that reaction. Sorry to disappoint you, but I don't need to make any statements. What do you mean? The evidence will do all the talking for me. Even if I can't testify, I can still present evidence. Yes, that's true. Wait, you mean you still have some conclusive evidence? No, I don't. But someone does. Someone? So, what's your excuse, Righto? Why have you been keeping quiet about it? Are you talking about the picture? You do have something to show us, right? Something that proves who knocked over Neil Marshall, causing his death. Conclusive evidence that leaves no room for doubt. Or is he talking about the handprint? Or is this true, Mr. Wright? If I show that piece of evidence now, Emma's sure to be made out as the murderer. Mr. Wright, if you have any more evidence, present it now. And if you try to conceal anything, you will be the one appearing before the Board of Inquiries. What do I do now? I better think this through carefully. I can't afford to make the wrong decision. Should I present that piece of evidence? The one that shows you really killed Prosecutor Marshall? So I believe, if I'm remembering this correctly, I think if you show evidence, that's an automatic game over. I'm going to say cannot show evidence. Your Honor, I don't have any evidence I can present at this point in time. That is a very well-worded statement. What? You lie! Chief Gant! You opened my safe. I know you took what was inside. Okay, so he is referring to the cloth. The conclusive evidence. I don't know what you're talking about. Mr. Wright, why don't you show them? We found it together. Oh, I see. It's because you know the truth, don't you? You know whose fingerprints are on it. That's why you won't present it. What are you talking about, Chief Gant? Can't you figure it out? Take a good look at this picture. See the victim's vest? Notice anything odd about the chest area? It looks like part of it's been cut out for some reason. You mean you had this in your safe? What? That means you, the chief of police, have been concealing evidence. This is going to be the biggest scandal in the history of the police department. Impressive. To be honest, I didn't think you had the gall, Righto. Well, I can't just let you pin me up as the murderer. I'll tell you what really happened. What? You mean you admit to it? I was the first person to arrive at the crime scene that day. It then occurred to me that I could use the situation to control Lana. So you really were manipulating her. I knew Lana. If I made it look like the blame lay with her sister, that when she saw the scene she would ask me for my aid. So you assisted Miss Skye. I told her to arrange all the evidence. I had her plant the knife tip in the victim's body and move the body across the room, and I ended up using that evidence to get Joe Dark convicted. When I tampered with the crime scene, I hid two pieces of evidence. This was before Lana arrived at the scene, mind you. 2 pieces of evidence. You mean those items in your safe? But why? For insurance, of course. Insurance. I was sure my plan would work, but it's always best to be prepared for the worst. I wasn't about to let anyone blame me for a murder that girl committed. You mean you were calculating that far ahead while forging the evidence? What do you take me for? A fool? I didn't make police chief by dumb luck. See this jar fragment? I hid the most legible part of Emma's name. Yeah, that's kind of what we thought. I didn't expect Lana to go and wipe the blood off all the pieces. But if you fabricated all the evidence, what's to say you didn't fabricate the message on this jar too? very good question. Ho ho ho. Some people just don't know when to quit, do they? That's why I kept one more item for insurance. You mean that piece of cloth? Come on, Righto. Cough it up already. I know you have it. What are you waiting for, Mr. Wright? So you admit to it then, Chief Gant, that you were hiding the cloth you cut off the victim's vest in your safe? Yes, I admit it. I didn't want to have to do that, being chief and all, but it's a lot better than being portrayed as a murderer. Well, Mr. Wright, what do you have to say for yourself? Just a moment ago, you said you didn't have any evidence you could present. Foolish move, Righto. You should have shown it then before it was too late. It's been a long battle, but the moment of truth has finally arrived. As long as I don't mess up here, victory is mine. So, I want to say that the reason why we weren't able to do it back then is because we can lean on Rule 1, this approval of the police department, as reason why we couldn't show it. But now that Gant has admitted that that piece of evidence exists, he's basically approved that it's relevant. And so now we can present it. So I'm going to try saying yes now. Your Honor, I do have evidence to present now. Alright then, let's see this conclusive evidence. The evidence that shows you actually murdered Prosecutor Marshall. Let me verify this once more. On the day of the crime, you personally cut out this piece of the victim's vest? Oh yes, at last you finally brought it out into the open. There's a handprint on this piece of cloth. Your Honor, the prosecution requests that be immediately sent to the lab for analysis. This handprint on the leather. There must have been a strong impact for it to be left so clearly. You mean... It could not have been forged. It must be authentic, conclusive evidence. Ho ho ho. You're as slow on the uptake as ever, Worthy. What? Think about it. Righto had all this time to present this evidence. Yet he was reluctant to do so. Why would that be? You mean you already know? You know whose fingerprints are on that? But Mr. Wright, do you really know? Whoever the fingerprints belong to must be the real murderer. Whose fingerprints are they? Very well. I'll tell you. It should be okay now. Everything's proceeding as predicted. The person to whom these fingerprints belong to is... Emma Skye? What? They're mine? I'm sorry, Emma. But why? Why didn't you tell me? Oh ho ho ho. You're really something, Righto. You knew this girl did it all along, and you still tried to pin the murder on me. So it's true. Tragic, but true. This girl really did shove Professor... I keep saying Professor. Prosecutor Marshall to his death. How could you? You monster! Skye? You knew whose fingerprints those were all along, yet you acted like she really didn't... Not exactly. Miss Skye, it's not over yet. What? I said this trial isn't over yet. Ha, but I'm afraid it is over, boy. Not only this trial, but your career, too. You purposely concealed this conclusive evidence. That, my friend, is a serious offense. I'm looking forward to pressing charges after the defendant is convicted. I'll have your badge, boy. What's the matter? Cat got your tongue? Aren't you going to tell us how it feels? How it feels to be the one who single-handedly turned a poor little girl into a murderer. Before I do that, there's just one little thing I have to clear up. Oh, and what's that? Who really killed Prosecutor Neil Marshall? What? Chief Gant, you are absolutely right. This piece of cloth proves who the real murderer is. Who killed Neil Marshall, you ask? It was Emma Skye, wasn't it? I'm afraid that's not possible. You see, this piece of cloth contains a critical contradiction. What? A contradiction? What is this fool babbling about? I'm talking about a contradiction, one that proves who the real killer is. Well, Mr. Wright, this piece of cloth, what could it possibly contradict? Chief Gant, your tyrannical reign ends here. Behold, the piece of evidence that contradicts this cloth. I want to say it's actually this picture because we can see the blood went over here onto his shirt, even though, like, normally you would expect the cloth to be covered in blood instead of this, right? Is this what we're supposed to be presenting? I'm going to present this. And what exactly is this supposed to be? This is the picture Miss Skye took. Take a good look at it. See where the piece of his vest was cut out? Yes, his shirt is showing underneath. It's hard to make out with all the blood on his vest, though. Exactly my point. His chest is soaked with blood. That's only natural. His lungs, no doubt, were punctured. Blood poured out of his mouth. Oh, but that piece of cloth... Wait! There's no blood on it! Yes! Okay, we figured it out. I was kind of surprised, like, he was saying that there was a contradiction, and then I saw the photo, and then it just suddenly clicked. I was like, wait, of course, there was no blood on the cloth. It makes absolute sense. Ah! Since Emma Skye's fingerprints are on this cloth, there's no doubt that she shoved the prosecutor aside. However, Mr. Marshall was not impaled on the sword at that time. No! This is nonsense! Now then, Chief Gant, let me ask you something. Prosecutor Marshall was not impaled when he was shoved aside. He most likely hit his head on the ground and was knocked out. If so, then tell me, who could it have been? Who could have arrived at the scene before Miss Lana Skye, picked up the unconscious prosecutor, and impaled him on the armor's sword? Then, to make it look like Emma was responsible for the prosecutor's death, said person proceeded to write her name on the jar with the victim's blood. A jar that they then broke on purpose to leave behind a clue, and make Lana believe her sister did it. Remember what you admitted only moments ago? That you personally cut out this bloodless piece of the victim's vest? Ironic, isn't it? Through the very act of creating insurance, you proved that you were the actual murderer. No! It's finally all over. Oh, that was close, Wright-o. You almost had me. Sorry, but you'll have to do better than that. I refute your allegations. What do you mean you refute his allegations? You see, that piece of cloth is illegal evidence. Oh, I don't think so. Order, order! What nonsense is this? Illegal evidence cannot be used to convict a suspect. Remember, Reggie? Earlier, old Wright-o here concealed that piece of cloth. So then, what's your excuse, Wright-o? You do have some conclusive evidence, don't you? Your Honor, I don't have any evidence I can present at this point in time. Well, that's true. The defense did refuse to present evidence. At that moment, that piece of cloth ceased to be legal evidence. But that's not fair! Hoo! Did you actually think you could best me in court? It looks like the last laugh's on you, son. I'm afraid Mr. Gant's claim is legally correct. Well, Mr. Edgeworth? True, illegal evidence cannot be used to convict a person. Assuming, of course, that the evidence is indeed illegal. Ah, I think he knows. Well, Mr. Wright? It seems, at last, the time for me to reveal my plan has finally arrived. Mr. Wright, do you admit to it? That you purposefully and illegally concealed this piece of cloth? I did not illegally do it. I admit I refused to present it at one point. Aha! So the evidence is illegal! No, it isn't, Mr. Gant. Huh? It's not that I didn't present evidence then. It's that I couldn't. What do you mean you couldn't? There are certain procedures involved when presenting evidence. No, Udgy, don't listen to his lies. He's nothing but a coward. You can't really believe. There is only one issue left to be resolved in this trial. Is this evidence legal or not? Very well, let us settle this once and for all. Earlier you refused to present evidence. If you can prove your conduct was not in violation of the law, then do so now. Alright, let's present this. This is my proof, Your Honor. Evidence law. What's this? I've done my homework too, Chief. Indeed, Emma Sky's fingerprints were on this piece of cloth. However, at that point in time, this was merely a piece of cloth, nothing more. What? You see, it's written right here in this book. The second rule of evidence law. Rule number 1, no evidence shall be shown without the approval of the police department. I found this piece of cloth myself, inside your safe. It goes without saying I did not have approval from the police department. Rule 2, unregistered evidence presented must be relevant to the case on trial. And here is the crux of the matter. You see, at the time it was impossible for me to prove the relevance between the cloth and the SL9 incident. What? What kind of nonsense is this? You want relevancy? Just take one look at this picture and... Exactly. Sorry, but can you recall when was that picture presented? That was shown only a few moments ago. No. He's right. At the beginning of today's trial, that piece of cloth was still meaningless. The person who gave it value as evidence was you, Damon Gant. You yourself confessed to a certain truth. Let me verify this once more. On the day of the crime, you personally cut out this piece of the victim's vest? Oh, yes! No! It was then that you approved this cloth as conclusive evidence. Yes, you, the chief of police, personally approved this cloth. The only person who could have cut this from the victim's vest is the one who stood before Prosecutor Marshall in his final moments. In other words, the real murderer, and there's only one person who that could be. Damon Gant, the killer was you. Wah! Hey! Oh! Ah! Hee! Ah! Well, that was quite a display. I knew I should have gotten rid of him. That good-for-nothing scum. For 2 years, he's been stooping around the department trying to get something on me. Crimes are being committed every day, yet he insisted on hounding me. Well, your crime wasn't exactly petty. He wanted to reinvestigate the case. He recruited Angel Starr, then convinced Bruce Goodman. Detective Goodman? Yeah, that's right. If the evidence is transferred, I'll lose my only chance to find out the truth. Please, you gotta help me. Goodman turned him down, as he ought to. Still, Jake Marshall didn't know when to quit. He stole Goodman's ID card and tried to take the evidence. Goodman came to me that day. He wanted to file lost item reports. I went with him to the evidence room. Then all of a sudden, he decided to speak out. What are you talking about, Goodman? Can you please reopen the investigation, Chief? We can't transfer the evidence out. There are too many questions left unanswered. He opened his evidence locker, and as he was taking the evidence out, he said, "It's not too late. I'm going to hand this all over to Marshall." Well, to be honest, I was a bit taken aback by his words. I had a bad feeling when he came to see me, but I never thought he'd bring up SL9. That's when I saw it, that accursed knife. I couldn't just pull it out. Doing so would have only led to more blood, making it near impossible to hide your crime. Even so, the blood was just pouring out. I didn't know who might stumble in, so I hurried to wipe it up. I was worrying so much about the floor, I didn't realize my fatal mistake. The bloody handprint on Detective Gumshoe's locker. I used to be known as the crime computer, but everyone has to start somewhere, I guess. I was too nervous. I had no business doing any of it. Then you put the body in my car? I'm sorry, I couldn't think of any other way to move the body. I broke your trunk, but what's the big deal? You make a lot more than us detectives ever will. Grr. Leaving the prosecution's car aside, how? How can you get Miss Skye involved in all of this? Well, she had as much to lose as I did if the truth came out. So you took the evidence from Detective Goodman's locker. I felt bad for having to do it. I also didn't have the time to pick and choose what to take. So, you left the jar fragments in the glove. Yeah. It looks like I was better off being an investigator of crimes than a committer. They all did their best to get in my way. I've got to hand it to them. They do their jobs well, much to my dismay. Fake evidence doesn't hold up very well upon close examination. You must have known that. Tell me, Worthy, why do you stand in court? Me? You despise criminals. I can feel it. You and me, we're the same. One day you'll understand. Oh, believe me, you will. You're just one man. You'll see what it really takes to bring them down once you try to go it all alone. You and Edgeworth are not the same. For one thing, you're a murderer and Edgeworth isn't. Well, looks like it's time to say goodbye. Oh, Udgy. What? Looks like we'll have to cancel that lunch date. Sorry, old friend. I'm sorry too, Damon Gant. I knew you as you used to be long ago. You were once a fine investigator and an example to others on the force. I'm sorry to learn that you are no longer that person. Those days are gone now, Edgy. Thanks for all the memories, though. Don't worry, you'll be fine. Now you have Wright here. And Worthy. With these two around, you can't go wrong. In fact, I can hear them already. The melodious sounds of a new beginning. There are two things I want you to understand. Yes? First, your sister never hurt anyone. Second, Damon Gant betrayed you from the beginning. You see, Miss Sky, you no longer have any reason to keep silent. You're right. When this trial is over, I'll tell everything. All that I've done these past 2 years, from the time I had Gant help me forge evidence up until today.
So, it seems all the questions raised in this trial have been answered.
I'm sorry, Miss Sky. I couldn't get you out of all your trouble. My, what high standards you have for a rookie. I can see why Mia thought so highly of you. Who knows, a few years from now, you just might make it to the top. Aw, she's smiling. I owe you my thanks, Mr. Wright. Miss Sky. And to you too, Mr. Edgeworth. You've suffered every bit as much as I have over these past few days. Believe me, I know how much of an ordeal it's been for you. It was nothing. Liar. I was worried the pressure might break you. And yet, you rose above it all and guided Mr. Wright to victory. You've done well, Mr. Edgeworth.
Stop it. I only did my job. In light of this case, it seems a good self-examining is in order for all of us. Miss Sky.
Yes, Your Honor?
You are innocent of murder. However, although the chief blackmailed you, the fact is you still acted as his accomplice. A trial will be scheduled for these crimes at a later date.
Yes, I understand, Your Honor.
Is there something amusing about all this? Why are you smiling?
It's been a long time, Your Honor. A long time since I've felt free of these heavy chains.
Well, this trial has gone on far too long already. Regarding the charge of murder, this court finds the defendant, Miss Lana Sky,
not guilty.
Yay! Confetti! Woo! That is all. This court is adjourned.
Wow, what a case that was. That was a jumbo-sized one. At long last, it's finally over. Emma? Why the long face? I'm sorry your sister didn't get completely off the hook. But at least she wasn't convicted for a murder she didn't commit. No, that's not it. Just now, after the trial ended, I can see why Mia Fey thought so highly of you. That's slightly different than what she actually said. She didn't say Fey, right? I owe you my thanks, Mr. Wright. And to you too, Mr. Edgeworth. You've suffered every bit as much as I have over these past few days. You've done well. You know, I did my best too. But Lana didn't say a single word to me.
Hope I'm not interrupting anything, pals.
Right on time, Gumshoe.
Oh, guess I am. I'll come back later.
Wait, Detective Gumshoe, what is it?
You're doing this on purpose, aren't you? Making a detective run all around while on duty. And to top it all off, you call me here. I've seen happier people at funerals. Hey, lighten up, pals. I'm only kidding.
Oh, are you here because of my sister again?
Nope, not this time. I came today because of you, pal.
Me?
That's right. I thought you'd like to see something.
Yay, Lana's here. Lana! Should you be doing this? She's still under arrest, you know.
Well, I won't tell if you won't.
Emma, I owe you an apology. It's okay, sis. Don't worry about it. That day 2 years ago, was the first time in my life I ever panicked. It was all I could do to keep myself from screaming All I could think about was keeping you from getting wrapped up in that mess. Sis, I asked Gant to help me cover up the truth. I thought I was doing it for your sake, but now I realize I was wrong. I changed after that day. I had to. It was the only way I could make it through the past 2 years. I knew how much I was hurting you by distancing myself, but I couldn't bring myself to tell you what I did. I was scared. Scared that you'd look at me with those eyes of yours. I was scared of how you'd react if you knew. But sis, you were only doing it for me. No. Huh? I turned my back on you that day. In hiding what I believed to be the truth, I was deceiving you. Sis. I'm such a fool. It took me all this time to realize it. Emma, I'm so sorry. But sis, you don't have to apologize. I'm happy now. You're happy? Of course. You know, sis, I always knew that one day you'd come back. And now you have. Aww. Oh, Emma. Emma. Aww. No one can change the past. The only thing we can do is strive to make up for our mistakes. Why must we make up for our mistakes, you ask? Because in so doing, we can find the way back to our rightful path. And it is from there that we can move on toward a brighter future. At least that's what I felt watching the two sisters make up. Mr. Wright, Mr. Gumshoe. Me? Thank you both for all that you've done. I'm sure we'll meet again someday. Isn't that right, Edgeworth? Edgeworth? Stop hiding and come over here. Oh, he's got his angry face. Where was he hiding? I just came to say, congratulations. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Edgeworth. Right. Well, I'll be going now. Mr. Edgeworth, I hope you don't blame yourself for what happened. We were the ones who acted corruptly, not you. It's too late for me. No matter what anyone may say, I realized today that I can't correct my mistakes. Mr. Edgeworth. Not only that, but I don't even trust myself anymore. Chief Gant was right. You despise criminals. I can feel it. You and me, we're the same. One day you'll understand. Oh, believe me, you will. You're just one man. You'll see what it really takes to bring them down once you try to go it alone. I do despise criminals. I plan to dedicate my entire life to fighting them. But in order to fight crime on my own, I need a weapon. It's scary, but I've known that to be true for quite some time now. But Edgeworth? Who knows? Given enough time, I might have tried to pull something like Chief Gant did. That thought terrifies me. That's why I can't continue on as a prosecutor. Edgeworth? Don't you understand? Damon Gant and your mentor, Manfred von Karma, were both the best of the best when it came to fighting crime. But they both made the same mistake. You said in order to fight crime on my own, I need a weapon. That may be true, but think back to today's trial. You weren't alone. You were working together with Mr. Wright. And because of that partnership, you were able to present evidence that otherwise would have gone undiscovered. Isn't that right, Mr. Wright? Huh? What? Oh, yeah. What is this, a pop quiz? Come on, Mr. Wright. Show him what Lana's talking about. Evidence, huh? Something that neither Edgeworth nor I would have been able to find on our own. I think they mean the evidence list, right? That's the picture I drew. Our counterattack began with this. You had one half of the evidence list and I had the other. Apart, we wouldn't have been able to completely restore Emma's picture. That didn't just happen by chance, Mr. Edgeworth. It's time for me to go. Aw, Edgeworth, don't be like that, man. Mr. Edgeworth? If you'll excuse me, there are still some loose ends that need wrapping up. Take care, Chief Prosecutor. Edgeworth, what will you do now? Well, whatever you do, just remember, you can let what happened to kill the prosecutor in you, or you can let it help you grow. In the end, it's up to you. I know. It seems I owe you my thanks too, Wright? But what I face now is my problem. Edgeworth, I'll be waiting for you in court. Farewell. I better be going too. Okay, but I'll be by to visit soon. It seems we both have a lot to learn and catching up to do. Here, this is a little something for you. Hey, this looks like it's from the same line of books as the evidence law book. It's that same character. And font. Scientific investigation. It's the first book I ever bought. Study it well. Thanks, sis. I will. And so, another case came to a close. As for the sisters, I have faith. Faith that their lives have only just begun. And as for me, I think it's time I started on a new journey of my own. A journey to rediscover myself.
Well, don't go trekking off just yet, pal.
Huh? What is it, detective?
There's just a little matter to be resolved about the chief prosecutor. You see, she isn't supposed to be out of jail like this.
But I thought you said it was okay.
Yeah, well, it may be okay with me, but the folks at the prison are a different story.
Huh?
Basically, I had to bribe a guard in order to sneak her out for 30 minutes. Believe me, it wasn't cheap either.
Huh? Way to go, detective! I didn't know you had a wild side.
Yeah, well, haha. You see, Mr. Wright here is the one who will be footing the bill.
Huh? Huh?
What, do you think I could afford it with my salary? You gotta be kidding me, pal.
Huh? 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 Thank you, Mr. Wright. You're the best. Why is it? I suddenly feel like I want to scream.
Hey, I got an idea. Why don't we all go pay it off together?
Yeah, that's a great idea. Come on, guys. Let's go. There we go. Alright, so we get another credit scene now for this new segment of the game. Okay, yeah, I thought we would have little interludes here. I arranged for a friend of mine in Europe to take care of Emma. I hope she'll be pleased to study under a top coroner. As for me, this affair has pretty much ended my days at the prosecutor's office. Still, I'll manage to find my way back to the field somehow. Then I'll be able to investigate crimes together with Emma. So that's one thing I've been withholding this entire time, is Emma actually appears in the 4th game, apparently. I don't know about any others, but she actually is an adult in that game and works as a scientific investigator. So in some ways, this was a bit of an origin story for her.
Yikes, I thought I was a goner for a moment there. In the end, though, they overlooked my unauthorized investigation of the chief's office.
Well, that's nice.
If we penalize you anymore, it'd be worse than firing you. Yep, that's what they said. It just goes to show, you can't shake me off that easily.
And also that sometimes bureaucracy can kind of undo itself. Or something like that. I like this ending theme more than the original that played after Case 4.
My new mission is to guard the main entrance and take care of Billy. Can you believe it? I've been demoted to a security guard. My partner's keeping an eye on the entrance for me today. I'll show them, though. Someday I'm going to make detective. Yes, sir. Then I can be just like that Dick Gumshoe.
At least someone looks up to Gumshoe. That is nice. I wonder what Marshall is up to. I'm sure he'll come up in this montage. Oh, I guess we get to see the Blue Badger. Do 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 boo do 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 do. So I feel like they should name him Billy because he has a Billy Club, and I guess he just fell over. I'm gonna wait to give my thoughts on the game until after we finish this. Oh, there is Marshall. What is it? Can't you see I'm having me a showdown with a steak lunch partner? Miss Star managed to sneak this into me. She's seeing one of the guards, it seems. Well, cowboy, looks like you did it. You even gave Bambina back her smile. Can you make sure Billy and the gang get their water? I think Meekins is taking care of that. So, no worries. Well, I shouldn't say that. Maybe since Meekins is the one doing it, maybe we should be worrying. Looks like we won't be seeing each other for a while. As a farewell gift, I put a new meal on the menu, the Right Way Lunch. The top layer tastes as bitter as defeat, but the bottom layer is sweet as victory. Kids seem to dig the turnabout theme. It's a hot seller around exam time. Just make sure not to eat it backwards. I'll try my best.
I'll never forget what that young defense lawyer said after the trial. Let's see, what was his name again? Mr. Left. Anyway, he said he's been doing something or other for, how many years? Well, anyway, I've got another trial to get to, so I'd better be... Huh? Oh no, I forgot my gavel. Sorry, gotta go.
Also, that's what the back of his chair looks like. I don't think we've ever seen that. At least in full. I think we may see it when we look over at Emma or Maya. Or at least like a little bit of it, but not that whole thing. Hey, Maya! Ah, nothing soothes the soul like fresh country air. Still, sometimes I do miss hearing you and your objection. Still, I can't go back until I'm a full-fledged spirit medium. Mystic Maya, afternoon training's about to begin. Coming! Well, see you around, Nick. Okay, so I guess in these wrap-up things, they're actually talking to us. Like in the original credits sequence, they were kind of talking to some random person. Like someone was making a documentary about us. Okay, I think this is the end, because I saw special thanks as the credit there. Oh! Mr. Edgeworth. Oh, it's the bellboy. Mr. Edgeworth, I brought you your tea. What's going on? Oh, don't tell me he resigned with that letter. Oh no. Well, that's a shame. Thanks for coming to see me off. I can't believe I'm going to Europe. Thank you, Mr. Wright. thank you so much for everything. I'm a little sad, but I'll be alright. Whenever I want to see Lana, all I have to do is open this book. Oh, I guess we can look at it. If I can click, do I have to go to the back? Yeah, here we go. Aww. That's really cute. I like that picture. And there we go. Alright, we have completed the 5th and final case, and thus we have completed the very first game in the Ace Attorney trilogy. I really enjoyed replaying this. It has been a long time since I've played this game, and it was just as fun this time around as I remembered it. I did notice some more of the kind of plot hole sort of things this time around, but overall I still really like Ace Attorney. This was definitely a bit of an initial kind of run at the concept, so I would say it's probably not as refined as the games later got, and some of the mechanisms that made the games more interesting are certainly absent in this first one, but it certainly does have its moments. I really enjoyed the cases for the most part. The third case seems to be kind of a bit of a weak spot in a lot of these games, but in this game I really enjoyed the samurai case quite a bit. It added a little bit of kind of a break from the main story, but it managed to be really fascinating as far as what the solution was. And it served as a bit of a precedent point for being able to solve certain aspects of later cases as well. So I thought that was really neat. The game mechanisms themselves are a lot of fun. I love the adventure game kind of mechanics of the like the investigation stuff, with some of the more visual novel elements of the courtroom trial and talking to people and presenting evidence and feeling like you're in a heated battle with the prosecution and everything. And the story, probably most importantly, is really good as well. I really enjoy the characters in this game. Phoenix Wright is a good protagonist. He feels very relatable. I love how you can hear his thoughts, you know, as you're going through the game. It kind of adds a lot of character and makes you feel like you're right there with him. And Edgeworth is a good antagonist without being a villain. I do like the sort of balance that he brings to the dynamic, where he can be a bit of a grumpy curmudgeon, but deep down inside he does have a sense of justice and a code of honor, and he does want to do what's right. The villains in this game were also pretty memorable, ranging from outright silly, like Mr. Solid in the very first trial, all the way to downright menacing, like Von Karma in the fourth trial and Damon Gant in the most recent one. I really enjoy the things that are required to get them to confess to the crime, and it's really satisfying when that moment happens and the cornered music kicks in. The music in this game, speaking of which, is also really memorable too. As we'll see when we begin the next game, the music changes with each game, so each portion of each theme, like, you know, how there's kind of a bit of a investigation theme, there's kind of a uncovering the truth theme in the courtroom, there's the cornered music, there's the objection music, there's all that. All of that changes from game to game, and this game's music is still some of my favorite in this trilogy. If I remember the rest of the trilogy well enough, which I'm sure I'll get to it, I'll probably comment on its music and praise it as well. But the objection theme and the cornered theme here are classics for a reason, and I really, really enjoy how they were implemented into the game. Overall, this was a lot of fun. I would say my only qualm about this is that the fifth case, Rise from the Ashes, the one we just played, kind of sticks out a little bit like a sore thumb for a couple reasons. One, it's incredibly long. I mean, we took 10 videos just to get through it, and all of them were fairly lengthy. The other thing is that it felt rather awkward to have Lana be withholding pretty much all the information that would have been useful for us in the trial, and I understand that there were some things she didn't know, but at the same time, it felt like a very convenient way for us to have to actually find it ourselves during investigations and all that. And I understand that it was because of Damon Gant, but still, it seemed a little contrived. The other thing was that the the mechanisms of the fingerprinting and the luminol spray, while a little bit different, were kind of a bit of annoying in some ways, especially the fingerprinting. They certainly don't hold a candle to some of the stuff that comes in the later games in the trilogy, and there's one mechanism in particular that I'm thinking of that I think is much better than both of those things, which we'll get to. But despite those things, I really enjoyed the case, and I really enjoyed the solution and uncovering what actually happened. I think that final stretch was really satisfying, and I really enjoyed it a lot. Overall, I think my favorite case in this game was Case 4, Turnabout Goodbyes, where we went up against Von Karma. There was just something about that that just felt really cool. Followed by probably Rise from the Ashes, then Turnabout Sisters, then Turnabout Samurai, and then finally the first Turnabout. So overall, really fun game. I really hope you've enjoyed this Let's Play. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and ring that little bell icon, and stay tuned as we get into the next game, Ace Attorney, Justice for All. I'll see you then. Take care, everybody, and